I mean, I internalized that as opportunity. Like, we had such a responsibility to this audience to deliver something and to have the opportunity to deliver something for a passionate group of people.
Yes.
As someone who is so deeply passionate myself, I was so excited about that. I would so much rather have that than people who are indifferent.
Blasé.
In the dazzling, often predictable world of Hollywood, some things feel as certain as gravity. A-list stars headline blockbuster franchises. Studios protect their golden geese at all costs. And Ryan Reynolds, well, he was practically Hollywood royalty, the king of charm, the undisputed ruler of the comedic superhero realm as Deadpool. So when news broke, not whispered rumors, but stark, undeniable news that Ryan Reynolds had been fired by Marvel Studios, it felt like the earth shifted on its axis. Fired. Let that word sink in. In the meticulously crafted cinematic universe where loyalty to marquee actors is practically gospel, losing a star of Reynolds' magnitude seemed just days before utterly unthinkable. Yet the unthinkable became reality. This wasn't a graceful exit, a polite creative differences announcement. This was a dismissal, abrupt and decisive, and it landed like a seismic shockwave through the entertainment industry. And the reason, the catalyst for this Hollywood earthquake? Whispers of scandalous evidence, digital trails dubbed receipts, and the emergence of a filmmaker, Justin Baldoni, thrust into the center of a storm. Baldoni, a director initially associated with a seemingly unrelated film project, suddenly held the keys to unraveling a deeply complicated feud, one that entangled Reynolds' wife, the equally famous Blake Lively. The question, the burning, insatiable question gripping everyone from studio executives to casual moviegoers, was brutal in its simplicity. How? How could Ryan Reynolds, a man seemingly immune to Hollywood's harsh realities, a performer poised to headline major future Marvel projects, face such an ignominious termination? What hidden currents, what unseen forces could possibly lead to the downfall of a star seemingly at the zenith of his power? The answer, it turned out, lay buried within those digital receipts, waiting to expose a scandal that would shake the foundations of Hollywood's carefully constructed image machine.
I'm honored, and I'm also more honored that because, you know, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful that we're able to have this much anticipation, and so many people want to go see it and are talking about it. Like, that's what I'm grateful for.
And you had a key part in bringing it to the big screen. How did this all come to be?
Well, in 2019, I read the book. I was sent the book by my book agent and friend at the time, and I was looking for films that could inspire, that were commercially viable, but also could really like reach in and touch somebody's heart.
Ryan Reynolds. The name itself is practically synonymous with Hollywood's glittering facade of effortless cool and box office dominance. He's cultivated an image so carefully crafted, so universally appealing, it felt almost impenetrable. Think about it, the self-deprecating wit, the charmingly awkward interviews, the string of commercially successful films culminating in the R-rated meta-comedic triumph of Deadpool, a character that seemed to perfectly embody his persona. He wasn't just a star, he was a brand, a carefully curated package of humor, relatability, and bankable charisma. Before the scandal erupted, Reynolds was riding the crest of a wave, his position in the Marvel Cinematic Universe secure, his future seemingly limitless. He was the golden boy, the actor studios dreamed of, the personality audiences adored. But behind the carefully managed smiles and the expertly timed jokes, a hidden crisis was brewing. Cracks were forming in that seemingly flawless facade. Because let's be clear, Marvel Studios, a corporate behemoth built on meticulously calculated risks and brand preservation, doesn't just sever ties with a star of Ryan Reynolds' caliber on a whim. This wasn't a minor disagreement, a scheduling conflict, or a simple creative difference that could be glossed over with a carefully worded public statement. This was a decisive, almost surgical removal, a clear indication that something profoundly serious, something potentially toxic had transpired behind the scenes. Whispers of unease, rumors of tension had begun to circulate in the industry grapevine, subtle indicators that the seemingly smooth waters surrounding Reynolds might be concealing turbulent depths. And these whispers, these undercurrents of unease, seemed to converge around a specific film project, a production helmed by a director named Justin Baldoni. This film, initially perceived as just another cog in the Hollywood machine, an independent project amidst the blockbuster behemoths, was destined to become the unlikely ground zero of a scandal that would ultimately threaten to dismantle Ryan Reynolds' carefully constructed empire.
I just kind of cast it as, oh, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less alone.
In the initial stages, the unfolding drama appeared deceptively contained, a seemingly isolated squabble playing out on a single film set. The spotlight, at first, seemed to illuminate a classic Hollywood trope, the onset feud, and the central figures in this opening act were Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Baldoni, a filmmaker who had garnered a reputation for crafting emotionally resonant narratives, stories that resonated with audiences seeking genuine human connection, was embarking on a significant project, directing a film adaptation of a beloved novel, a piece of source material ripe with poignant themes and dramatic potential. Blake Lively, a star known for her accessible warmth in interviews, her flawless red carpet poise, and her undeniable screen presence, was cast in the coveted lead role. On the surface, in the carefully curated world of pre-production announcements and promotional materials, this collaboration appeared to be a match made in Hollywood heaven. Baldoni's empathetic directorial style seemed perfectly aligned with Lively's approachable star power. Early promotional clips, carefully crafted to generate buzz and anticipation, painted a picture of creative synergy, a project bathed in a rosy, uplifting light. Excitement rippled through fan circles, eager to see what this seemingly perfect pairing would create. But beneath the veneer of manufactured harmony, trouble was already stealthily brewing, like a slow leak in a pressurized system. Insiders, those ever-present observers of Hollywood's inner workings, began whispering about Blake's growing discontent, a simmering frustration that belied the public image of on-set camaraderie. The source of this friction, according to these early accounts, was Justin Baldoni's multifaceted role in the production. He wasn't simply confined to the director's chair, he was deeply involved in shaping the script, wielding significant creative influence over the narrative, and, perhaps most crucially, he was also slated to portray a principal character within the film itself. This multi-hyphenate approach, while not uncommon in the industry, appeared to be a point of contention for Lively, a perceived imbalance in the creative dynamic, setting the stage for a clash of egos, a battle for spotlight, and the unraveling of the carefully constructed facade of Hollywood collaboration.
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
Were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, I got snot coming out of my nose.
The simmering onset friction, initially confined to hushed whispers and industry gossip, refused to remain contained. It inevitably spilled into the public sphere, escalating from vague rumors to concrete accusations, shifting the narrative in dramatic and unexpected ways. The rumors intensified, solidifying into stories, alleging that Blake Lively felt increasingly overshadowed, convinced that Justin Baldoni was intentionally, perhaps even strategically, hogging the spotlight, diminishing her own prominence in the project. Initially, many within the industry, and indeed casual observers following the unfolding drama, were inclined to dismiss these murmurings as typical onset friction, the kind of creative clashes and ego-driven skirmishes that are almost considered par for the course in the high-pressure environment of filmmaking. The assumption was that these tensions would likely dissipate once principal photography wrapped, fading into the background noise of Hollywood production. But then, the situation took a sharp, decidedly more acrimonious turn. Blake Lively, in a move that sent shockwaves through the industry, leveled a serious publicly voiced accusation against Justin Baldoni. She didn't just express creative disagreements, she claimed he was actively, deliberately undermining her professional reputation. The accusation was pointed and damaging. She suggested Baldoni had orchestrated a calculated campaign of press leaks, strategically disseminating information designed to paint her in a negative light, portraying her as difficult to work with, demanding, temperamental, even, in the harsher whispers, challenging. In Hollywood, where perception is often reality, and where carefully cultivated image is paramount, these were not just minor grievances. They were potentially career-damaging accusations. Initially, and perhaps predictably, the industry seemed to lean towards believing Blake's version of events. After all, Hollywood's history is rife with instances of powerful male directors and studio executives shaping narratives, often at the expense of female leads, perpetuating a system where women in the industry face disproportionate scrutiny and are more readily labeled as difficult. Headlines and social media discourse swiftly coalesced around this narrative, painting Justin Baldoni as the overbearing, self-serving director, and Blake Lively as the talented star simply striving to have her voice heard, to reclaim her agency in a potentially imbalanced power dynamic. The narrative was meticulously constructed. Blake, the victim of a patriarchal system; Justin, the embodiment of that system's inherent biases. Public sympathy initially overwhelmingly sided with with Lively, but this carefully crafted, seemingly airtight perception, this seemingly unshakable narrative of victim and aggressor was teetering on the brink of collapse, about to be shattered by the emergence of undeniable digital evidence.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
Just when Blake Lively's narrative of victimhood seemed to have solidified in the public consciousness, just as Justin Baldoni was being cast as the archetypal Hollywood heavy, the tide began to dramatically, irrevocably turn. Baldoni's team, seemingly anticipating the trajectory of public opinion, unleashed a counteroffensive, a strategic maneuver that would unravel Blake's carefully constructed story and expose a far more complex and nuanced reality. The weapon of choice? Text messages. These weren't vague recollections, secondhand accounts, or easily dismissible hearsay. These were concrete, time-stamped digital logs of actual conversations, irrefutable evidence captured in the cold, hard light of digital data. And what these text messages meticulously documented directly and devastatingly contradicted Blake Lively's carefully crafted narrative. Instead of revealing Justin Baldoni engaging in a calculated smear campaign against her, the text painted a starkly different picture, exposing a pattern of behavior that was, at best, self-serving, and at worst, manipulative. The messages revealed Blake Lively making a series of explicit demands, exerting pressure behind the scenes, and, crucially, invoking the considerable influence of her husband Ryan Reynolds and his formidable network of Hollywood power players. In a particularly revealing detail, she referred to these influential friends and colleagues, Ryan chief among them, as dragons, a loaded metaphor that spoke volumes about the formidable, almost mythical backing she believed she could summon should her requirements not be met. The digital logs implied a concerted effort on Lively's part to exert control over virtually every aspect of the film's production and public presentation. She appeared to be aggressively pushing for script rewrites to better suit her vision, dictating specific marketing angles to shape public perception, and even attempting to control the narrative surrounding the project itself. Suddenly, her earlier, carefully cultivated claims of feeling marginalized, of being an oppressed voice in a patriarchal system, rang increasingly hollow, even disingenuous. The text messages in their stark, unfiltered digital reality flipped the script entirely. Blake Lively, no longer the victim in a David versus Goliath Hollywood drama, was revealed to be a powerful player in her own right, someone willing to leverage her considerable influence, and that of her equally powerful husband, to shape events to her own advantage. The carefully constructed facade of victimhood crumbled, replaced by a far more complex and potentially damaging portrait of ambition, influence, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering.
And being frank, if it were not for women giving me direct feedback in my own personal life and being, being a man who was willing to at least listen to them, there's no chance that I would be having this conversation. So the message, to answer your question, the message is very simple. As men, we need to embrace all of the parts of us that make us human. That's it.
It is.
It's
And
very simple.
As the drama surrounding Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni unfolded, captivating the attention of Hollywood and the wider public, Ryan Reynolds remained, at least superficially, a figure in the periphery. His role in the escalating conflict was largely speculative, a looming presence hinted at but not fully defined, a shadow cast by his wife's actions and pronouncements. While Blake actively engaged in shaping the narrative, Ryan maintained a public silence, a carefully constructed neutrality that left many wondering about the true extent of his involvement. Was he simply standing by his wife, offering quiet support from the sidelines? Or was his silence a calculated strategy, a carefully orchestrated attempt to distance himself from the unfolding controversy while secretly pulling strings behind the scenes? No one initially could definitively say for certain just how deeply Ryan Reynolds was entangled in the web of accusations and counter-accusations, or whether Blake Lively was acting independently, merely invoking her husband's name and influence as leverage in her power plays. Fans, ever eager to decipher the truth behind the Hollywood smoke and mirrors, openly speculated. Was the famously comedic star simply choosing to stay out of his wife's professional entanglements, maintaining a diplomatic distance from a controversy that didn't directly involve him. Perhaps he was hoping the storm would simply blow over, allowing him to emerge unscathed, his carefully cultivated image intact. But that carefully constructed ambiguity, that veil of plausible deniability, was about to be ripped away, because soon additional materials began to surface, evidence that definitively shattered the illusion of Ryan Reynolds' neutrality, revealing a far more active and arguably more problematic level of involvement. These weren't just Blake's text messages anymore. These were new communications, digital logs that directly implicated Ryan Reynolds in the concerted efforts to challenge Justin Baldoni's directorial authority and, crucially, to actively spin the unfolding story to Blake Lively's advantage. Remember Ryan Reynolds' carefully constructed public persona, the foundation of his brand. Humor, goodwill, self-deprecation, these were the pillars upon which his Hollywood empire was built. But these newly surfaced logs, these digital breadcrumbs of behind-the-scenes maneuvering, suggested a starkly contrasting reality. They painted a picture of Ryan Reynolds as less of a passive bystander and far more of an active co-strategist, a willing participant in a calculated campaign to shape perception and control the narrative. The revelations emerged in fragmented snippets, tantalizing glimpses into phone calls with influential contacts, concrete suggestions for how to strategically leak unfavorable tidbits of information about Justin Baldoni to the press, and even detailed proposals for crafting specific media angles designed to recast Blake Lively as the misunderstood hero in this unfolding drama. The carefully constructed image of Ryan Reynolds, the affable comedic superstar, the lovable everyman, was now being directly and damagingly challenged by the emerging specter of Ryan Reynolds, the behind-the-scenes manipulator, the strategic operator willing to play hardball to protect his wife's image and influence. The whispers of concern were growing louder, threatening to drown out the carefully orchestrated laughter that had defined his career for so long. For a while, the focus remained on the simmering conflict between Justin and Blake. Ryan's involvement, while concerning, was still somewhat in the periphery. Then Justin dropped another bombshell. He announced he possessed a new batch of comprehensive receipts. These weren't just more texts. These were time-stamped communications and digital proof, too substantial to dismiss as mere rumor or spin. According to early reports, these records detailed Ryan's direct awareness of specific smear tactics. Tactics designed to shift the narrative and paint Justin in a negative light. As soon as word of these new receipts reached Marvel executives, alarm bells went off. Ryan Reynolds was a cornerstone of their future plans, a key player in their expanding universe. The possibility that he was actively involved in unethical, disruptive behind-the-scenes maneuvering sent shockwaves through the studio. Urgent meetings were convened at the highest levels. Hollywood has seen controversies before, but the stakes here were astronomical. Marvel relies on squeaky clean, controversy-free relationships with its stars. Continuing to stand by Ryan in the face of evidence of unethical conduct risked a massive backlash from fans, fellow actors, and future collaborators. Then came the day that changed everything. Marvel executives reviewed Justin's receipts. The content, while not immediately made public, was described as damning. It provided direct confirmation that Ryan had actively coordinated with Blake to manage press coverage and manipulate public opinion against Justin. And according to rumors, the messages hinted at something even broader, a pattern of pressure tactics, leveraging industry ties for personal and professional gain. That was the final straw. In a move that stunned the industry, Marvel made the drastic decision. They fired Ryan Reynolds. The official statement was curt, referencing a recent review of newly disclosed information and concluding that Ryan's position was no longer tenable. The language was surprisingly direct for Marvel, known for its carefully crafted corporate speak. This was serious. This was final. The reign of Ryan Reynolds in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was over. Social media exploded. Shock, disbelief, and a torrent of questions flooded the internet. How could a star of Ryan's magnitude, with his seemingly Teflon-coated image, be so abruptly dismissed by the studio that had championed him? While fans clamored for answers, Justin Baldoni maintained a steady, unflustered demeanor. No victory laps, no public jabs at Ryan or Blake. Instead, he released more detailed logs, clarifying the timeline of events, asserting that his goal was never to vilify anyone, but to protect protect his professional integrity and the well-being of his production team. Meanwhile, Blake Lively retreated from the public eye. Her once constant social media presence vanished, fueling speculation that she and Ryan were scrambling to manage the fallout. Her attorney sensationally severed ties, citing irreconcilable differences regarding her account of events. The industry was in shock. Marvel's decisive action sent tremors through Hollywood. Studios watched closely, especially regarding how to handle contract disputes with A-listers. Marvel, a media titan, dismissing Ryan Reynolds sent a clear message. Star power is not a shield against accountability. Opinions within Hollywood grew sharply divided. Some called Marvel's move an overreaction, questioning if the situation could have been salvaged with PR damage control. Others saw it as a necessary overdue stance on accountability, arguing that powerful couples had been getting away with behind-the-scenes manipulations for too long. Justin Baldoni, for his part, expressed a sense of vindication, insisting his goal was always to expose the behind-closed-doors maneuvers that threatened his creative vision. So, what's the real takeaway from this Hollywood meltdown? It's a stark reminder that in the age of digital receipts, no image is truly bulletproof, not even one built on humor and charm. Ryan Reynolds' swift fall from Marvel's grace exposes the fragility of carefully constructed public personas when confronted with hard evidence. Hollywood's power dynamics are now under intense scrutiny. Marvel's decisive action suggests a potential shift towards greater accountability, even for its biggest stars. What does the future hold for Ryan Reynolds? Can he rehabilitate his image? Will he offer a definitive apology, attempting to explain away the damning texts? Or is this a career-defining blow, a permanent scar on his once pristine reputation? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear, this saga serves as a potent lesson in the age of documentation. In a world of texts, emails, and unedited logs, no one, not even a beloved Hollywood star, is immune to the consequences when those digital breadcrumbs contradict the carefully crafted narratives of fame and influence. And when an institution as powerful as Marvel decides the revelations are too damaging to ignore, the door can slam shut with startling and very public finality.